the greatest moment in my life.
Oh,
It's almost like you were surprised that we were doing a podcast then.
I'm still recovering from the comments that happened literally seconds before the countdown button was pressed, Maxie.
Oh, you mean the one where I said, this is why I don't work with idiots?
Yes, exactly. Calling me the aforementioned idiot, yes.
I mean, read into it what you will.
Well, it's just the usual levels of prep, wasn't it? I asked you a question about the format of the show.
Yeah, and to give context, this isn't just me slating Sa. This is because with 39 seconds before we went live, Sa said to me, so how are we going about reviewing this movie? With less than 40 seconds to go.
In my defense, right? We've got
I am an idiot.
In my defense, I've got the rough format of the show and other bits and bobs, notes and that open to the side of the screen when the show first starts. So I can't actually
Written
see
in crayon, usually.
Yeah, literally just sprawled on the screen. No, so I can't see the countdown clock when we first go live. So
this is
I
why
didn't know
you
there's
need a second monitor.
Oh yeah. Me and the wife been talking about that, mate. Been talking about that. There's plans afoot to move a few things around.
Good Lord.
So I can
This
get
is
out of
why
this.
you've been trying to drag me back into the podcasting world.
No. So I can get out of this little corner and have a little bit more room to do things.
I.e., she's leaving you, and you'll have all the house to yourself.
She's sick of my shit.
Yeah, she's sick of this bollocks.
You spend all your time with a headset on, stinking of air fryer sprites, you bastard. I'm taking the kids. Oh man, no, that's not the case at all. Well, I hope it's not. Sharon, let us know in the chat.
Let us know, Sharon. Yes, I'm sorry to tell you like this in front of everyone, but yeah, we are through.
Yeah. And I'm taking the air fryer. No, don't do that. Oh, but there we go, mate. There we go. It's very warm as well this evening in my house. Oh,
you want to be turning that gas off? It'll cost you an absolute fortune.
Yeah, well, I've been watching Doctor Who with Charlie, and I just went downstairs and I said to Sharon, bloody hell, it's hot down here. Now I'm upstairs, shut away in my little corner where I do this. I'm roasting, mate. It's almost like summertime again when I'm having to wipe the sweat from my brow as we record.
And yeah, it's only February. 2 days away from my birthday, by the way.
I was about to ask about this because I know my birthday is on Sunday, so yours is very close as well. And so is that the 8th, your one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I should remember that because that's the same as Liv's, isn't it?
Yeah. It is.
So how old will you be on the 8th, Maxie?
43.
43.
That's grim, isn't it?
I'll be 42 on Sunday.
Oh,
our Our Livs will be 16 on Wednesday. And my darling, lovely grandmother will be 92 tomorrow, mate.
Wow.
I know.
That's
amazing stuff, isn't it?
It is.
So there we go.
Are you not going to do an intro today then? No, just flying straight in.
No, well, whatever, mate. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, an SJP World Media production, episode 108. And was it 76 live now, Magsy?
76 live, yeah. That's ridiculous.
Goodness. It's insane.
Why have you put up with us for 76 episodes?
I don't know, but I am very, very grateful. Very grateful.
Same.
I am Si, and with me, as always, is the Diamond Dallas Page to my advancing age. We spoke about birthdays just then, so it does make sense. Quite topical, I think, for what we've been talking about. The Titus Sinclair to my greying hair, and it is, mate. It's really bad, especially when I turn my light on above there. I can see it all shining back at me. Hate it, mate. Hate it.
You do have a look of Sal Baldini.
Ooh, I'd take that. That guy was great, but we'll get to him later. A podcaster who is always ready to rumble and even films it sometimes. Just don't tell Mrs. Mags, she's unaware. The podfather himself, Lord Mags.
Very Excuse me, Mrs. Mags is very aware that I film when I'm ready to rumble.
Yeah.
And she's absolutely disgusted in it.
Magsy, who's joined us, mate? Who's joined us?
Well, another packed house full of wrestling reprobates. We have got King's Pig's Bladder in very early, saying very quiet, and then started the ball rolling with Dan Griffin. Hello to you, sir. Cam Griffin in the chat as well. Hello. Apparently, something wrong with Cam's toe. I mean,
okay.
That's what happens when you avoid Twitter like the plague.
What, you get a bad toe?
No, that you don't know about other people's bad toes.
Okay, yeah.
Sharon, as it's tradition, it's Monday night. You know what that means. And then she gets lots and lots of hellos. Charlie in the chat. Hello, Charlie. How are you? Oh, Mags, what a shock to see you here at the same time almost every week. In the almost that we don't have a scar every now and again. So yeah, we've had Sharon saying that she told me not to mention your impending divorce. We've got Charlie being told to do her homework. Morty in the chat, my former podcast bit on the side for a day, I suppose it is. Hello, sir. How are you? And everyone's favourite Maidstonian, Scottish Danny in the chat. Hello, Scottish Danny. Who's ready to rumble? That's the game way of writing ready to rumble, the boxing game. So it's not that one, Danny. So unfortunately, we have to disappoint you. It's the shitty wrestling film one.
You've let everyone down there, Danny. Most importantly, I feel yourself.
Absolutely.
A little bit of context for what Morty has said there, mind. It's Monday, release the squirrels, is his comment in the chat. We did a recording for the Murder in Mind podcast this week. And it, believe it or not, for a show that involves me, it took a little bit of a detour from the topic that we should be discussing. And
I am shocked.
There was a reference to somebody being a rubbish superhero. And Morty then checked out, surely the worst superhero of all time is the one that their superpower is that they can communicate with squirrels. I was like,
that'd be an amazing superpower.
Well, I was just like, that's got to be something you've made up, isn't it? Surely that can't be a real superhero because that is ridiculous. So then during the recording, I looked it up, and Squirrel Girl is a real thing. She's part of one of these universes, Marvel, DC, whatever. She was in comics back in the early 90s, and her superpower is she can communicate with squirrels. Now, that's a very specific
command
power.
The squirrel army.
I thought Aquaman was shit because he can talk to fish, but this
that is a terrible power as well.
It is. That's got to be the worst superhero ever, hasn't it?
Do you think they were running out of ideas?
And just by the 90s, maybe.
Sat there just drumming around the office, and then a squirrel passes by the window. That's it, Squirrel Girl.
And apparently her alter ego, so like her version of Clark Kent, she's a college student called Doreen. So there's that.
That very popular mid-90s name, Doreen.
Doreen, yes, indeed.
Amazing.
Yes, Squirrel Girl there.
Dan Griffin, the worst supervillain, is Condiment King in DC. What's
is
his
that
special
real?
power? He'll turn your mustard French.
Is that a real thing, Condiment King? Jesus, it must be if he's throwing it out there, I guess. But that's maybe
Squirrel Girl killed Thanos in one comic. I think Jesus, we avoided the snap and killed off one of the most powerful villains in comic book history. So don't you be slagging off Squirrel Girl
or
anymore.
Her sidekick,
Doreen.
Monkey Joe. No, Monkey Joe.
Is that an actual sidekick?
You go onto her Wikipedia, okay, Squirrel Girl's Wikipedia, and there's first of all a cartoon image of her, and she looks fucking ridiculous for a start. She's got this massive tail coming out the back of her jeans. It's stupid. And then you look down, and I suppose with other superhero Wikipedia pages, you've got the likes of, her superpowers listed. And having a big tail is one of them. Again, I don't see how that's a benefit, but there we go. And then maybe. And then a bit further down, there's reference to people she's associated with. And one person, well, there's only a couple there listed, but one of them is somebody called Monkey Joe. So, yeah.
So that gives me two concerns.
Okay.
One, that your podcast, Murdering Mind,
Mhm.
went on this weird tangent about a squirrel superhero.
Yep.
And then 2, you did more research into finding out about Squirrel Girl than you've ever done for any part of this podcast, 108 episodes in.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I feel I've been usurped by Morty as your favourite podcast tag team partner.
Everyone who listens to the Murder in Mind podcast will be very happy to know that that show is edited, and the series 2 of the show, series 2 of that show is back on Friday via the SJP World Media Network. This is, I think, is episode 4 or 5 we've got to, so we've got a few in the bank, and you'll all be very happy to know I have cut none of that out, so you can all listen to our Squirrel Girl conversation.
You've been blessed, people.
You're so lucky. Magsy, good week then, mate. Good week.
Yeah, not too bad. I got a sneaky offer about maybe returning to the podcast fold, which I'm mulling over. But yeah, a bit of a weird weekend. UFC wasn't on till 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, so that threw my schedule way out of kilter. So
6 o'clock in the morning it started.
Yeah, it was.
So is that better
weird.
than 2 a.m. 3 a.m.? No,
because the prelim started at 3 a.m. So the main card started at 6 a.m.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
So all because another MMA company was having a show, so they didn't want to clash. So yeah, I spent yesterday like a zombie, but I did watch the end of Happy Valley, which was amazing.
Never seen it, mate.
Fuck off.
I've not seen it. I haven't.
It's one of the best shows there's ever been.
Yeah, see, I heard this, and then Twitter was full of it, saying, "I Happy Valley's amazing" and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, "Oh, perhaps we should check that out." And then I realized it was like the last episode they're making.
The very last. They're not making anymore. Yeah, and it's been 7 years since the last season as well. There's only 18 episodes altogether, so you can easily catch up. But it's a brilliant show.
There we go, Sharon. Something for us to watch together, my love.
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested, let us know in the chat, Sharon. Perhaps this will save our marriage, Max.
I mean, fingers crossed.
Did you watch NXT this weekend?
No, I don't think I did. Is it the Vengeance Day?
Yeah.
That premium live event. No, but I heard there was a really bad injury though.
Okay. Somebody knackered their finger, didn't they?
Yeah. Was it Dominic Dijak?
See, I don't know. I'm asking if you've seen it. I've not seen it.
I've seen the pictures of his finger trying to hail a cab on its own.
Brilliant.
It's about 45 degrees. His finger, instead of being straight, yeah, it's pretty grim.
Yeah. No, I've not seen I've seen the picture of the finger. I've not seen the pay-per-view or anything like that. So
no, I've not. So that brilliant, bringing that up.
Excellent. Should we just go to the Hall of Lane then?
Yes, we shall.
The Hall of See, what you got for us, mate?
Yeah, so after a week off from the Hall of Lame, I've got a bit of a doozy one, and I'm quite proud of this one. So anyone who knows me as a wrestling fan will know that my favorite wrestler is and probably always will be Chris Jericho. The amount of times that guy has been able to reinvent himself and stay relevant, even now when he's got a dad bod and he's wrestling for AEW, he still has a way of changing his character and adding wrinkles to make himself relevant. And he's done some really historic things in wrestling as well, none more so than the time he became the first ever WWF undisputed champion when he won both the belts on one night in a tournament where he beat The Rock and Stone Cold, and that piece of history will never be able to be taken away from him. But I think a lot of people from that whole kind of attitude and going into the ruthless aggression era do see that timeline of wrestling with rose-colored glasses, because his reign as champion didn't last that long. I think he won the title at Vengeance in
December, wasn't it?
And then lost the title at WrestleMania. And in that time, he only actually really had one feud, because the pay-per-view after Vengeance, I think he wrestled The Rock, which was a continuation of the Vengeance, and then he wrestled Stone Cold. So that feud was still continuing. He then, after that, went into the feud that led into WrestleMania, which was against the Lord and Savior of wrestling himself, Triple H. Now, this match should have been so easy to book for. You had Triple H, the Royal Rumble winner, and you had Chris Jericho. Two guys at the time on top of their game. This would light up any pay-per-view and was well worthy of being a WrestleMania headline match. But WWF have a fascination with adding to a storyline that elements that it really doesn't need. And in this one, the elements was, this wasn't about Chris Jericho. This wasn't about the titles. This was about Stephanie versus Triple H. So Jericho, the world champion, the headliner of WrestleMania, was playing second fiddle to Stephanie and Triple H and their divorce. And to
dog, wasn't it?
And to put the final cap on this for me was Jericho, 2 weeks into the run up to WrestleMania, was babysitting Triple H's dog whilst Triple H and Stephanie were going through their divorce proceedings. Absolutely ridiculous. The match at WrestleMania was an absolute banger, probably the best match on that pay-per-view. It's only really overshadowed because it was essentially following The Rock and Hogan, which was the biggest match at the time. But yeah, my entry for the Hall of Fame this week is Jericho, the first ever undisputed WWF champion and the headliner of WrestleMania, had to babysit Triple H's dog while Stephanie and Triple H discussed their divorce.
It's just nonsense, wasn't it? It could have been so good.
And what really stings about it is that they clearly had no faith in Jericho. This was not about him, and it took nearly 6 years before he got the world title again. Just absolutely ridiculous. But like I said, great match. So definitely go back and watch it. But yeah, just not impressed with the storyline for this match at all.
Didn't the dog get run over?
It did, because Jericho tied it to a car, and then it got run over. Yeah. Triple H also claimed that he owned Stephanie's Corvette, and when she wanted it back, he'd give her half of it back.
That's quite funny. But yeah, it was an absolute waste, wasn't it, of that historic night at Vengeance. And
didn't need all that story, though. That's the best thing. They didn't need all that story. But the McMahons...
You think about it, Triple H won the Rumble. It was his comeback from that horrific injury he suffered.
Yep.
That's the story.
All the pieces were there. All the pieces were there. That's all it needed to be. But no. Stephanie and Triple H had to be top billing with their ridiculous storyline where they were getting divorced. And she even faked a pregnancy as well. Let's throw that in there.
Yeah, so much nonsense in such a short period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great show, mate. That's a great show. Joining it this week is, well, I decided I was going to do something I haven't done for a little while for the Hall of Fame segment.
Research?
Yeah, well, there was some research. You cheeky bastard. We've had well, you just put in title reigns, there's been feuds, there's been wrestlers themselves and so on. We haven't had an event go in for a little while. I think the last event we put in was December to Dismember, maybe.
Yes.
Is that the last one?
Don't bring that monstrosity up on this podcast ever again.
No,
Yeah, that's gone
not
in.
good. I think I've got a pay-per-view that's worse than December to Dismember.
I mean, I can probably name a couple.
Is it Cage Match that people rate stuff on, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Cage Match thinks this is the worst. Worst WWE pay-per-view of all time.
The worst WWE one. Now, I was thinking the ridiculous Legends of Wrestling tour that they did. Was that?
Oh yeah, that was
Australia?
crap.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Legends of Wrestling, quick shout out for One Man's Meat podcast. Scottish Danny and Chris Bellis covered that pay-per-view on an episode. I don't think it was a very particularly recent one, but I've gone back and been listening to.
Yeah, I think it was like the first or the second episode. I think.
Absolutely brilliant show. So go and check out One Man's Meat there with Danny and Chris Bellis. Really, really good stuff. But yeah, this is a lot more recent than that. This is only 3 years ago now, I suppose.
Okay.
Care to have one last guess?
No.
Okay, fine. You don't want to play the game.
Royal Rumble 2020.
No. I would like to chuck in Super Showdown 2020.
Oh.
And what I'll do now is
that was the Australia one, wasn't it?
There was one of them in Australia. This one I think was back in Saudi again, wasn't it?
Okay.
So I'll run through the card because I think it speaks for itself. And it's typical WWE nonsense bullshit booking. All the stuff that we hated a couple of years ago until Triple H kind of came in and fixed a few things. This show almost epitomizes everything that we as wrestling fans despised about the WWE. First of all, we had a dark match. The OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, they defeated the Viking Raiders. So I bet that was exciting for everyone who was there. We then had a gauntlet match with numerous talents like Andrade, Bobby Lashley, R-Truth, AJ Styles, all handy in the ring, at least, some even better. But it was won by The Undertaker, who turned up completely at random and spent 4 minutes in the ring, destroyed AJ Styles at the end, and won that gauntlet contest for some strange two-wake mountain trophy.
Two-wake, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, so highly prestigious, I imagine. Highly prestigious. We did have a tag team title match and a title change because The Miz and Morrison beat the New Day. So there was that. That went nearly quarter of an hour. Potentially the highlight of the card, maybe.
And then it was all downhill from there.
Well, we had a singles contest. Angel Garza defeated Humberto Carrillo. Main event anywhere in the world, Mags. I'm sure you'll agree.
Main event, as in the WWE show main event.
Yes. Potentially the best guy they had on their roster at this time in ring, Seth Rollins, was in a tag team contest with his mate Murphy, and they retained their championships against the Street Profits and were barely given 10 minutes. So that was a good use of talent there. Mansoor obviously had a match and won, and then was, tucked away in his box again until the next time they go to Saudi Arabia. We then come to, I'm going to skip the title matches because I'm going to speak about those last. We had Roman Reigns. He was facing King Corbin in this steel cage match. So, yeah, there's that. Bayley defeated Naomi in a match that is quite historic because it was two ladies wrestling on a Saudi Arabia pay-per-view. So that is quite important, I suppose. But the real big issue I have with this card is we have a WWE title match and we have a Universal title match when the belts were separate. And neither match went longer than 3 minutes. Brock Lesnar defeated Ricochet in 1 minute 30 seconds. Goldberg then defeated The Fiend, if you remember that fantastic booking decision they made then, in 2 minutes 59 seconds. Both title matches combined went less than 5 minutes.
Ridiculous.
Now you look down that show, you look down that card, you've got so much talent involved, whether it's in-ring talent or character-wise. I mean, Goldberg at this point, but of course he's not talented in the ring, but character-wise, you can do stuff with him. Mm-hmm. The Fiend is obviously at the height of his powers at this point. He is the champion. So that's quite a big deal. And then you've got in-ring talent like AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, and so on. But yeah, I watched that pay-per-view. I was excited for that pay-per-view, and it's one of the worst things I have ever seen. And I'm amazed that in 2020 I still got surprised and let down by WWE. But yes, I was a mug. I got my hopes up, and I was still let down and surprised by WWE. So going in for me this week, Magsy, is Super Showdown 2020.
I mean, there's a reason why that show didn't tickle your fancy. It's because it wasn't aimed at you. It wasn't even aimed at the typical WWE audience of kids. It was all for the whims of Sheikh, whatever is called, of Saudi Arabia, and for the whims of Vince McMahon. Yeah, those wrestling shows in Saudi are not for wrestling fans. They are for money. That is it.
And it's a bloody disgrace.
It is. It is. But it's the world we live in.
There we go. Our entrance into this week's Hall of Lame on Chain Wrestling Live. We have Super Showdown 2020 and the Triple H, Chris Jericho nonsense feud over a dog, half a car, and a divorce. Going into WrestleMania 18. Both, I think, very worthy entrants, Magsy.
I absolutely agree. With half of them, anyway.
Okay. Let's have a quick scan through the chat, my friend, shall we? Before we dive on to our non-wrestling topic this week.
We shall. So Dan has provided more context about Condiment King. He was in the 90s animated Batman series, had ketchup and mustard guns, was intended as a piss take of the 60s Batman TV villains. That's mean, because the 60s Batman TV villains were iconic. I mean, is it Cesar Romero as the Joker? Brilliant character.
All their like underground layers were on the wonk, though, weren't they?
Everything on that show was on the wonk. They touched the wall; you could see it wobble.
Yeah.
And Morty singing our once in a lifetime theme tune. It's the Morty and Mac Show. It's the Morty and Mac Show. Scottish Daddy says the Morty and Mag Show coming soon to SJP. Maybe, but probably not. Cam saying that Dominic Dijak can now point her at corners now. It was a proper mingy break. And for him, he was just so calm when he was taking a photo of it, though. Jesus wept. Danny really appreciates our review of that pay-per-view. Yeah, but we like to be topical and also totally not in touch. So that's
we
fine.
Spoke about Vengeance, to be fair. It was just Vengeance 2001.
Yeah, just 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
Mo is saying that we are nothing if not professional. And Sharon just laughing at us. Mo says, I know they're talking about their positions above the bodies, or their positions above the bodies are too distracting this week. Sai is even wearing the same color.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
I didn't even twig either.
So you're Sean Sugar Daddy Hawkins then?
And you're Boggs.
I'm not. I'm the law.
More about that later.
Sai is going to put Squirrel Girl in the Hall of Lame. I mean, that he'll use that research again. I guarantee. Before the next 100 shows, we will get another research of Squirrel Girl. To
be fair, we probably won't, because I've not written any of that down, so there's no way I'm going to remember it.
Jesus. So Dan Griffin, he's got to shoot out, be back in a bit. Hurry up back, Dan, because I believe he's gone for a shit. And that's definitely a euphemism from Dan. And then King's Pigs Bladder saying bye, Dan. So yeah, that's the chat all caught up with.
Awesome stuff, mate. Awesome stuff. So, shall we dive on into our non-wrestling topic then, Mag? Oh, before we do, actually, I suppose, as is the way the show is running now, next week, the second edition of Mags versus Sai. Looking forward to that. I loved it last week. So, yeah, exciting times, mate. Exciting times.
So we need to discuss a topic for next week's, and I may outsource some of my questions. So stay tuned to your Twitter DMs, people.
Interesting.
Anyway, let's discuss this non-wrestling topic.
NWT time. Oh, no wrestling talk here. It's the non-wrestling topic.
Lovely.
Nice. Lovely. Nice.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
Filthy belch.
That with the smoke cloud coming from you, then it looked like you had literally just done that belch.
Brilliant.
You did that belch live, and all the smoke came out.
This week's non-wrestling topic is, well, I suppose I'll give you my and put forward topic about this. The reason this is going to be discussed today, the inspiration for this segment, I suppose, is my interactions with Netflix this week and the terrible customer service I received. Basically, Netflix sent me God knows how many emails, reminders, etc., saying that the bill needed to be paid, which is fine. That happens, you know. I paid it, but they didn't stop, Max. If anything, they intensified to the point where I'm thinking, I'm getting bloody harassed by a streaming service here. What the hell is going on? So I contacted Netflix, and the money's left the bank. Everything's done and dusted. And the chat I had online via the app with a Netflix customer service representative was nothing short of fucking disgusting. This guy basically explains to me that because there was a few days gap between last month running out and this month's payment, they needed to run a test on my card, even though it's been the same card for the last, I don't know, few years. So the payment they took was a test payment. I will receive that back sometime in the next 30 working days. I was like, okay.
How does that make sense?
And I've got the whole conversation screenshot and everything, so I can show people what this idiot was saying. So I was okay. So where does this leave me? And I basically got told, well, you still owe the money for the bill.
But they had the money. They took the money.
And there lies the problem. And this is why I got quite cross. So this is, just absolute nonsense. And this conversation went on for a very long time, round and round and round in circles, to the point where I ended up just saying to the guy, this is ridiculous. This is disgusting customer service. I'm effectively, we have the multi-screen job, so the kids can log in and all that sort of stuff. It's like 15, 16 quid, which is already a lot of money. I said, you're expecting me to pay over £30 for a service that is only supposed to cost me 15. I got to pay you twice. And he's, oh yeah, but you'll have the money back in 30 days. It's like, that's not the point. You've taken my money.
So they're essentially borrowing some money off you.
Yeah. So I can't, that £15 of mine, you're saying, yes, it is mine, it's going to be returned. That £15, I can't spend for 30 days because you've got it just to test my card when it's the same sodding card. And the way I paid, it even came up on the app to say, are you using a card that is already registered with us? I clicked yes, only had to enter 2 numbers and it was done. So they're already aware of the card. It's the most ridiculous, nonsense, bullshit back and forth I've ever had in my life. So that kind of got me thinking, customer service, whether you're the customer or you're the person providing the customer service, what's the best, worst examples of customer service you can think of? And we had loads come in, Magsy, didn't we?
We did. Everybody hates customer service. That's facts.
It does seem that way, mate. It does seem that way. I will run through them in the order they arrived into us on Twitter, Mags. So get ready for that. MGB Graham at MGB Graham on Twitter.
Nailed it.
What's that?
I got it. I guessed which one came in first, and I got it right.
Fantastic. There we go. Let's see if we can do that for the rest of the show.
No, that's not possible.
Graham says, as I am currently trying to book a car for my next trip back to England, I am reminded of the amazing customer service we had last time. We hadn't booked ahead and there was a shortage. We got a great upgrade at no extra cost after credit card constantly declined even after calls. So that's good customer service. So fair play.
That's a good start, yeah. So maybe not everybody hates customer service.
No, maybe not, mate. Maybe not. Rob at UTT Rob is slightly more negative with his experience, Max. Rob
Again,
says,
this is where the downhill
Yeah.
comes.
I think Graham is the peak. Graham is the
Yeah.
happy. We should have saved that one until last, really, shouldn't we? Because that was the happy one to end on. Rob says, BT have the absolute worst customer service I've had. Multiple rumbles with them over the years. One time they were coming to fix the Wi-Fi. I waited all day, no sign. Rang up and they claimed they'd been and I was out, which was untrue. They claimed they knocked on the black side door. I said I didn't have a side door and none of my doors were black, they're white. The rep said it must have been a shadow that looked like a door they knocked on.
Piss off. That's grim. BT are douchebags, though. They're absolute douchebags.
We had BT for our internet a long time ago, and it was just an absolute nightmare. It was horrific, mate.
I mean, Virgin and not much better.
No, Virgin are a pain, but at least with Virgin, I feel I can get hold of someone. They might not be able to bloody help me, but I can get hold of them.
Yeah. But they will offer you a new deal and knock a little bit off your bill.
Yeah, there we go. Danny at Scottish Juggalo on Twitter. He says, my sister was in Greggs a few years ago and purchased a freshly baked, delicious pasty. Upon biting into it, however, she was met with a long grey hair inside it. Instant bin job. Oh,
that's horrid. I mean,
that's not a good
to
look.
be fair to the people at Greggs, the pasties are delivered. They're not made fresh in store. They're delivered frozen and then baked. So that wasn't the customer service. That was the prep. But Jesus wept. Can you imagine? That's one of my massive phobias: other people's body parts in food. There.
Other people's body parts in your mouth.
I mean, that's not a phobia.
Okay.
That's a kink.
At Pigs Bladders on Twitter, they say, the automated phone systems that piss me off. You spend 3 hours preach. What was that?
that means I agree with him so wholeheartedly that he's preaching to the choir.
Right. Okay. I knew what it meant. It just sounded really strange coming from a 43-year-old man from Burnley.
I'm down with the kids.
Okay, if you say so. You spend 3 hours navigating the complex options, looking for the one that will actually take you through to a real person, only to be placed in a huge queue. And just when you think you're about to get through, the line goes dead. Oh, so many times. Whether it's the council, Virgin Media used to be horrific for that as well, didn't it?
It did, and now you're getting it online with the chat bots. You think you're getting someone real who you're talking to, and it's just a robot just giving like algorithmed answers. Yeah, it's annoying as fuck. I hate phone systems like that. And then when you get sent to a call center in India as well, that's ridiculous. That annoys me. So yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
King's Pigs Ladder.
Indeed. Call center. It's so frustrating because you just want to speak to a real person. And then the majority of the time when you get through to a real person, they're a fucking idiot and they don't help you anyway.
Yeah. It's because there's so little actual people picking up the phones that they put you on hold for so long, they expect you to hang up. So they don't have to deal with you. It's ridiculous.
Very quick to get hold of you when you've not paid your bill, though.
Yeah, and charge you a practice test fee.
Yeah.
That's a new one on me. That's a brilliant one.
Fuck you, Netflix. Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter. He says, had surprisingly bad customer service from Harris's years back. Ordered my dad a fancy port and cheese thing for Christmas. Nominated delivery for the Monday of my week off near Christmas. Didn't arrive. 2 days on hold. Finally got through on Twitter on the Thursday. They promised delivery on the Friday. Didn't show up on the Friday. Afternoon on hold. Spent a whole week waiting in for this package. It got delivered in the hour I left the house on Saturday to my dad.
Brilliant.
Totally hung out to dry and wasted a week off. Just sat at home waiting for a bit of cheese, man.
I know. I mean, it sounds like a heavenly job, but deliveries. I mean, as bad as automated phone calls are, delivery companies are the worst. They're fucking horrible.
Yeah, it's funny because we've got a few that come here, and a couple of them are sound, no problem at all. But then there's one or two. Sharon will probably say in the chat, but there's one or two that companies that deliver to us, like whether it's for Sharon's business or whatever, that have these really odd practices. So, I mean, again, I've got a picture of it that I can put up on the Twitter, to, people can see it. It's funny now, out of context, but at the time it was incredibly frustrating. Something was being sent, some products for Sharon's business, and we weren't in. I arrived home first. Sharon said there's the delivery due, and I was like, whereabouts is it, and so on. And I think the message to Sharon was it was like by the hedge or near the hedge, or now where our wheelie bin is, it's kind of cut into a hole in the hedge, so there's like a little bit you can touch. I was like, oh, okay, fine. Yeah. Looked all around there, couldn't see it. Looked up, it was literally wedged into the top of the hedge, just sticking out of the
where they'd thrown it over the hedge.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I mean, it's funny now looking back, but at
was
the time,
that company Every? Was it Hermes, or I think they're now called Every?
Maybe Sharon again will confirm in the chat, I expect. But I think Hermes she's had problems with. Yeah,
I recently had a lot of fun with Hermes. So Mrs. Mags, she's got a new fad, I suppose I call it. She's really getting into resin art, making things with like resin and glitter and things like that.
Okay.
So I ordered her a new desk to work on because she didn't want to get resin all over. So I just thought I'd get her a new desk, and if she cheap and cheerful one, if she ruins it with resin, no harm, no foul. So we ordered one, and Every was the delivery company assigned to it, and instantly you get a shudder. So it was due to come on a Tuesday. So we were in waiting for this delivery, and we get an email saying delivery has been attempted, and I'm like, no, it hasn't. Nobody's even knocked on the door, never mind attempted to deliver. But they take photos of your house to prove that they've been. But the photo that they took was taken clearly from inside a van,
right?
Because you could see like the reflection, and
right.
It was also a snowy day, and the only footprints going up and down the drive were our footprints. There were no footprints of anybody else. So I contacted Every, got the automated chatbot, and they said it will be attempted to be delivered the next day. Comes to the next day, and we get a message saying that the delivery is on hold because it is too big of an item. They need to get a specialist delivery person to deliver it, and they would inform us when that was going to happen. They never informed us of that. It never happened at all. We were just in this limbo of not having the item we ordered, and also not knowing when they were coming to deliver it. So I cancelled the order. Told the seller, look, you have to deal with this. It says on Every's website, if you're having problems, contact the seller, and then we'll go with them. So I ordered a different desk. That came a couple of days later, as promised, and then the desk we'd originally ordered was delivered about 2 days later.
Fantastic.
So the missus got 2 new desks to resin on because Every couldn't deliver one in the first place.
Fucking absolute shambles, mate. Absolute shambles.
It's ridiculous.
AB, our good buddy AB, at official AB_pos on Twitter. They say, while working for a national ISP, what's an ISP?
Internet service provider.
Ah, okay. We had a repeat caller from a daycare. Owner thought her husband was ex-KGB.
Starting well.
The owner thought her husband was ex-KGB spying on her and would call to ask us what each box was in her basement in case of bugs. It was just the router and the phone equipment. And the account
Wow.
name, the acronym was actually KKK as well. Oh
Jesus Christ! I would have cut their service right off.
dear.
Ex-KGB, spying on his wife, and also part of the Ku Klux Klan. Brilliant.
Quite a combination there, mate. Quite a combination. That's brilliant. Ja at Yamallright on Twitter. A negative was for me was working customer service at a call center. A parent called on Christmas Eve as a delivery failed. They put their child on the phone and told me to explain why they weren't getting their Christmas present. Oh my god.
I've seen a TikTok of a woman complaining to a company. She'd left it till I think it was like the 23rd to put her order in for her son's Christmas present, and she was giving the customer service loads of grief, saying, "You're going to have to explain to my son why his present won't be there for Christmas." And the customer service was like, "You ordered it yesterday. There's no way we can deliver it today." And yeah, it was just hilarious.
That is terrible, isn't it? My goodness.
It is.
They continue, though. A good one was when they went to Paris last year with the missus for their 10-year wedding anniversary. Got their room upgraded free of charge for basically just being polite. There was an American couple in front of us being rude and loud. Checking in, we waited patiently in line and got a fancy room.
I hope they swapped rooms. I hope the Americans had paid for an expensive room and they got downgraded because of it.
Yeah, there's no need to be rude to people who work in retail or customer service or anything like that, is there?
It's such a hard job to deal with because people are just entitled.
Yeah, exactly.
Says us slagging off customer service.
Yeah, but these are stupid customer service people. They're not like, Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter. He says, had plenty of crazy customers working in retail. One old fella used to walk in the road and step in front of cars so he could shout at people for nearly hitting him. He'd then pretend to be deaf in the store. Fantastic. A woman who regularly used a store mobility scooter stunk to the point you could smell her before you saw her. Okay. One day, the scooter broke down. The other was in use, and she toddled off fine, carrying her bags. And then staff realised she'd pissed herself. So stinky piss had to be cleaned up.
Jesus.
Oh, my goodness.
Clean up on aisle 4, please.
Yeah. Maybe this one's worse.
I've just seen it.
Dan continues. One old fella shat himself and left a trail of turd breadcrumbs down the butcher's aisle. Had to seal off the entire fresh produce section due to fecal contamination. Butchers did rock, paper, scissors to see who had to clean it up. There was a lot of food wasted that day. Man, you know that's a bad day at work if the term fecal contamination is ever used. You know that day has not gone well.
Or the term turd breadcrumbs.
Oh, man. I've been waiting for this now since we posted this topic because we are getting to our good buddy Stevo at Total Stevo on Twitter. And we all know how much he, well, shall we say, encounters difficult people in his work. Stevo says, working in retail, and like driving in London, I have hundreds of stores a day, let alone across years. I can't give specifics, but frustrations I have with the stupidity or laziness of customers. Laziness was in capital letters as well, just to really emphasize the point. The usual one would be a customer walks through the door and immediately asks where the alcohol is or the milk and cereal. Essentially, a very common product. Just look, these products have their own oil. It's not a rare foreign sauce that's mixed in with pasta, for example. We're not hiding the milk from you, you crazy old bastard. Just go to the fridge. When customers ask me if whatever certain product has a certain ingredient in it, and I literally do as they should and read the ingredients. Unless they're blind, read it yourself.
I don't. Why would you? I don't get why you would pester someone working at a supermarket for something you could literally find out quicker.
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely insane. A lot of elite FPL members find the wholemeal flour story hilarious and reminds me regularly. Essentially, a woman asked if the wholemeal flour in her hand was wholemeal. This went on for what seemed like 5 hours explaining it was. Man, I'll tell you what, being a fly on the wall for just a couple of hours of Steve-O's shift at work would be fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I'd love to
No
witness.
wonder he's bald. He
Yeah.
doesn't shave his head, he just rips his hair out.
Yeah, exactly. In one of the worst McDonald's in London, Oxford Circus branch, complete shithole, he's put here. The girl behind the till's attitude absolutely stank. I literally had to say, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? I'm not a fucking robot. She looked at me in horror, realizing I wasn't the typical foreign tourist they get in there. Oh my goodness. All of the above happened just yesterday.
He's got all that in just one day. A lifetime of stories, and that's just a day in the life of Steve-O.
Best experience, though, Steve-O says. I used to give a Nando's in Plymouth in my own time many years ago to do fantasy football research. I used to use, the Nando's. The same waiter was always there. A very sweet, polite bloke in his late 40s. Treated normally without patronizing you. I.e., every 5 minutes asking how your food is or constantly asking if you want dessert. I genuinely wrote a nice comment about him on their website. Surprisingly, the sales assistants in Harrods are usually very friendly, but I haven't been for years. But they treat you, again, normally, not in a patronizing way. Yeah, and that's a big thing, isn't it, as well? You know, I suppose it's why it comes to the stereotyping. I mean, there's been places I've walked into and I look a certain way, you know, with the long hair and whatever. What did you say?
Like homeless.
Homeless, brilliant, thank you. And they just, you know, certain customer service representatives take one look at you and just don't want to talk to you.
Instantly judge, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're the pretty woman of Gloucester, aren't you?
Well,
you'll go into a shop and everyone will sneer at you, and then you'll whip out your bank card, and then you'll go, big mistake, people. I'll buy my clothes from somewhere else.
I whip out my bank card and say, you wait. When Netflix refunds that 15 quid, you're going to regret this.
I'm not going to be spending it in here.
Again, fantastic Gloucester accent, Mags. Steve-O says, I'll finish on. Clearly a mentally ill individual essentially screaming at me because I intimidated them, despite the fact I was helping them look for their lost keys. Oh my God. Where does Steve-O live? I know it's London, but my God.
He must just attract the worst people ever.
Eventually he left, Steve-O continues, screaming his way out the shop. Oh yeah, bloke was getting frustrated, understandably, that self-service was not scanning or weighing properly. He grabbed the stuff, slammed on another self-service, still didn't work, and decided to do a Booker T style kick over the top of his head that he used to do. The cola bottle exploded. I was on my break paying on self-service next to him. I just turned to him and had to politely say, what are you doing? And then I thought, and decided to then say, what the fuck was that, you prat? The man proceeded to apologize. Again, all this happened yesterday, Steve says.
Good Lord.
And as ever, you wonder why I'm now actively looking to leave my job. I fucking hate it, he says here.
That was all yesterday. What a grim day it is working retail.
Yeah, man. Those self-scan things, they piss me right. Sharon will say in the chat as well, no doubt, if I ever do go shopping with her or we both go to a shop at the same time, apparently it's really like difficult being with me because
I get that, but I understand where she's coming from.
The self-service stuff, for example, I get quite annoyed with. And I mean, first of all, I like to go to a till because I like the people, you know, they're doing their job and so on. You don't want the robots taking everyone's jobs, do you? This isn't fucking Terminator, you know? So, but at the same time, when you go to these self-service things and it says, you know, you put the basket down here, but then it doesn't register the basket's there. So you scan your first item, and then it starts saying put it in the bagging area. And
Yeah.
before you know it,
Unexpected item in the bagging area.
I've really lost my rag, and it's just so it's frustrating for me. So I can't imagine what it must be like for Sharon watching, to be fair.
What's worse for us, I don't know if you have this down in deep dark Gloucester, but our local supermarkets now have not only a self scanning area, but they also have where you get the guns where you scan as you go.
Mhm.
Oh my god.
See, they're not too bad.
No, but that's fine. You can go on, you can beep beep at your heart's content. But then when you get to pay,
Yes.
and this we don't believe that you've got these items. A member of staff is coming to check, and it's every single time. So why not just have that member of staff on a till to just scan things so they know what's happening? Instead, every time we have to have a member of staff rummaging through our shopping for particular items that the machine is telling them to scan in case we've stolen something. Ridiculous.
See, again, that is another of those scenarios where if Shah's on her own, or if I'm just walking alongside her, it's fine. If I'm trying to help, or if I'm having any part of this process,
trying to help,
it kind of goes wrong. The last time Sharon and I were in a supermarket, and I mean, I'm picking stuff up and putting it in the basket or putting it in the trolley, and Sharon must have said 20 times, "I need to scan it," but for some reason, that little tiny bit of information just wouldn't go in my head. So I just kept putting stuff in, right? Or if Sharon's on her Todd, or if I just stay out of the way, no problem at all. She's beep beep beep, got it all done, pays for it, out we go. But
it's just when you're on the rob.
Yeah, basically. We have one more from Twitter, from Cam at CamGriff92.
Oh yeah, I saw it as well. Apologies, Cam. The gun a bit.
He says he was at a restaurant called Wild Jack's in Florida eons ago on a family holiday. Partway through the meal, at Dan Griffin 21 lost a tooth. My old man called the waiter over and exclaimed that we had found said tooth in his meal. Oh my god. The waiter turned white and started to get a bit flustered. Safe to say we fessed up after a while, but the waiter took the joke excellently and didn't hold any grudges, we hope. Yeah, your food got spat in, dude.
Yeah. I hope you didn't order like a dessert after that, because that dessert got some phlegm in it.
Yeah, not a good look at all.
The custard was extra lumpy that day.
I lost a filling when I was at work, going back years, right? And it was quite a substantial filling, but I didn't twig that it had come out until halfway through my pot noodle that I was eating on my break. So I was eating, I went, oh God, what's that? And to me, it was just a big chunk of metal. And I just assumed it was out of my pot noodle, because I didn't twig it was my filling. So I took a picture of it, jumped on the old Twitter machines, tweeted Golden Wonder.
Bollock Golden Wonder.
Yeah. And they were bloody brilliant, mate. They were really apologetic.
Here's 24 pot noodles.
Just they were absolutely sound. And I reckon about half an hour later, I went, oh, okay. Oh, that makes a lot more sense now. And twigged it was actually something that was already.
Did you do the honourable thing like Cam and Dan did? Did you fess up?
Yes.
You didn't fess up, you liar.
I didn't say a damn word.
You took you grubby individual. You took the
way I
customer service and just rinsed them.
The way I looked at it was, enough times passed, I don't actually know this person. So, is what it is, isn't it?
Ridiculous.
Well, Bombay bad boy, mate.
It's like I don't know you anymore.
Oh, thank you so much to everybody in the CWF on Twitter and so on for messaging in your customer service tales. Magsy, do you have any particularly to share, or have we heard them as we've gone through the chat?
No, I have got one that grinds my gears, and it's a relatively new concept. Well, to me, it may have been something that's been going on for a long while, but obviously during COVID, people were locked down, so we started doing online shopping, Tesco, Asda, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, didn't know that there was this concept of substitutions. So if an item that you order isn't in stock, they'll send you a substitution. Now, normally it's they're pretty much the same. You'll order a particular brand of eggs, and they were in stock, so we've sent you these eggs. Or you ordered this washing powder that wasn't available. We've sent you this washing powder. But sometimes they do get it a little bit wrong, because we've ordered potatoes and got sent washing up liquid.
Brilliant.
We've ordered biscuits and got sent dishwasher tablets. I don't even have a dishwasher, so they're absolutely no use. But yeah, that is just something that absolutely baffles me, that substituting what you wanted to buy in the first place for something that's totally not fit for the purpose that you wanted it for.
Yeah, very annoying. We've been quite fortunate, really, and we do our online shop, and most of the time they've got in what we want. A couple of times they've done the substitutions thing. I mean, the last one was I bought like the cheapo £1 pizzas from Iceland, because they're in the freezer, handy for the kids, and they chuck them in if they're hungry or whatever. They didn't have any, so they upgraded us to the posh pizzas. Didn't have to pay
I mean that's a great thing.
Mate. That's great.
And you don't get charged anymore.
No, lovely stuff.
It's a their problem.
Yeah,
But it's just when you get something that you didn't want, didn't need, and is not even remotely a substitute for the thing that you weren't able to have. It's ridiculous.
Exactly, bud. Exactly. Should we scan through the chat, mate? Should we scan through the chat before we talk a little? Well, I was going to say talk a little bit of wrestling, but it's more a movie.
Well, there is a little bit of wrestling in there. So let's get back to where we were. This one. So Cam says, loan shark to the major corporations. I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of the cheese roller. Amazing. And then you started sharing off, saying that UPS has lost her corsets. The less said about that, the better. We don't need any context there whatsoever. But she actually comes to the defense of Every, saying every driver is excellent, even though she spelt it wrong twice and got it right third time lucky. And she agrees that there's absolutely no need to be rude at all. The please, no thank you cost you absolutely nothing. Yep, that's right. I don't get this generation of people just being rude for the sake of it. Sharon loves a scan as you shop. Yeah, I like holding the gun. I love being the beep beep person, but it's when you get to the checkout and Sharon then chucks in an insult. It must be your face. I don't have that problem. I look like I'm going to burgle like beans from Tesco or bread.
You're swiping like a frozen pizza and some fish fingers.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, I may be. The amount of times I've stolen cheese from Tesco is unreal.
Really?
By the way, I've never stolen cheese from Tesco.
Okay. My dad used to take magazines all the time.
From Tesco?
From Asda, yeah. It was from Asda they used to go to. This is when I was a kid. And I think he used to get a bit of a kick out of it. Because like the child seats in the trolleys, they sort of fold back and forward, don't they?
Yeah. So he used to just like slide them in the gap.
He used to put his car magazines and whatnot in
magazines, sure. They're top shelters.
He used to put it in the
razzle.
So it didn't get creased or wrecked or anything like that in with the shopping.
And just never buy him.
And a couple of times he forgot to pay for them. So I think this caused a light bulb to go off in my dad's head. And then
free magazines.
I think he just kept doing it.
So stealing a magazine, he got the thrill of not paying the £2 or whatever the magazine were, and it made him a kleptomaniac.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I hope Gloucester police are listening along to this. Go and arrest Sar's dad for the multiple Reader's Wives magazines he's got.
There's got to be a, jurisdiction, like the time limit. I think statute limitations on magazine theft. Yeah, it was in the 80s.
On wag mag theft.
It was the 80s. It was a long time ago.
Look at this, Cam. I once got a cooker hood from B&Q because they forgot to scan it, and I wasn't going to say anything. When it comes to things like that, I get a guilt feeling, and it overwhelms me. No,
I get a guilt feeling. Is that
a guilty feeling? Then. Yeah, guilt. But you know when you've not done anything wrong, like when you see or you hear about someone else doing something, and you get like that guilt for them. Even though you've not done it, I know you clearly don't. You don't feel guilty for the things you've done, never mind the things you haven't done. But that normal people will get a feeling of like secondhand guilt almost. Yeah, I get that all the time. I'm the kind of person who, if something doesn't get scanned, I'll say, "Oh, you haven't scanned this," or "Is that price right? You need to check it." I might be a fucking idiot for doing it, but I just can't. Like, I can't do that. It's just not in my nature, I suppose.
So you say about secondhand guilt. Are you now feeling guilty because Cam stole a cooker?
I am. I'm actually feeling guilty for. I'm gonna get on the B&Q website and send him an email and pay for that cooker hood. And he's give context anyway. I paid for the other items, but they made me carry it to the trade counter and didn't scan it. just theft, absolute theft.
No, fair enough.
King's Pigs Manor once bought a shed. It arrived. So a few days later, the payment arrived in the bank. Amazing. That would annoy me. Like when we bought stuff on eBay, and the item hasn't come, and then you contact the seller and you get the money back, and then the item turns up. I'll always contact that seller and say, the item's turned up. Here's the money. I can't be the person who goes, "Oh, a free item, I've got my money back." No, it's just something inside me that just won't allow that.
It's because you're a good person, Maxie.
Well, not everybody says so, but them's the breaks.
Me, on the other hand, I got plenty of shit to do that I haven't paid for. But there we go.
You go on it specifically. You had from the delivery person, so you don't have to pay for it.
Pretty much. Again, thank you to everyone in the chat for, well, I suppose, letting us peek behind the curtain in these. Did you forget your mute button there, pal?
Did I not mute? I did.
No.
That was brilliant. I can literally click the mute button, but never mind.
Yeah, thank you for everyone for letting us know your customer service situations, and I suppose a little look into the CWF criminal underworld, I guess.
Yeah, just the people who I associate with, I'm fairly disgusted. King's Pigs Bladder trying to give some justification. Says it was from Tesco Direct. They won't miss it. Theft is theft, sir. Theft is theft.
Just
cookers. It's not a victimless crime.
Cookers, sheds, and magazines everywhere, mate. Shall we talk then about what won this week's poll, Maxie?
We can. I mean, should I click the certain button?
Yes.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Ready to rumble, indeed. Indeed.
I mean, that guy was in the film.
He was, wasn't he?
He was.
Now, the winner of this week's poll was me for the first time in what seems like half my life. But it wasn't a strict wrestling match that won it. Kind of bent the rules a little bit, copied a little bit of Magsie's previous, bad examples of how to play the game, and went with a movie that is full of wrestlers and wrestling based, the 2000 film Ready to Rumble. And I've not seen this in a very, very long time. Mags, you said you bloody love it. Have you not seen it for a while either?
I've seen it multiple times, but I've not seen it for quite a few years.
Okay.
I think, didn't we cover the match that they had on WCW that was based on this? I'm sure we did.
I'll tell you what's funny, really funny. We covered Slamboree 2000, the main event, when David Arquette went into the match as world champion.
Yeah.
And we covered it 2 years ago this week.
Wow. Well, I think that may be around the time that I rewatched this film last.
Okay. Fair enough. How weird a coincidence is that, though? That literally popped up on my Facebook memories this morning.
Hmm.
Very strange,
Very
mate, isn't
weird.
it? Very strange. But yes, ready to rumble. We're obviously going to be running through the film, talking about bits we liked, bits we disliked, and so on. So if you've not seen the movie, spoiler alert, but it is 23 years old. So, and it's not like there's any massive swerves involved. So I think you can, listen to what we're talking about and not have the movie ruined for you.
I mean, if you haven't watched it by now, it's likely that you're not going to ever watch it.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. I enjoyed this, Max. I put this on a little bit, I don't know, a little bit unsure as to what I was going to get. Because some of those films from the late 90s, early 2000s, that sort of American Pie, teen comedy kind of effort. I kind of banded this in with a similar sort of vibe to those films.
Yeah, I understand that. It was a film definitely aimed at the lowest common denominator of not only wrestling fans, but just of comedy in general. Very very childish jokes. The two main characters are simpletons. But it's not a bad film. I mean, it gets a slating because of it makes wrestling fans look like fucking idiots, which 90% of them actually are. So I think that a lot of the hate for it is it's holding a mirror up to the wrestling community. And it's of a ridiculous time. The 2000s were a weird time for comedy. But it's not that bad of a film. It was quite funny in parts. It's good to see the wrestlers that we know from our heyday of wrestling fans. Yeah, I've got to say I enjoyed watching it back.
Yeah, I did. Like I said, going in, I wasn't too sure what I was going to get, but I ended up really, really enjoying watching it back. I thought it was really funny in places. The whole, like you said, holding a mirror up to wrestling fans, and the two main characters are wrestling fans that are simpletons, as you say, and they don't come off good in this at all, the wrestling fans, do they?
No.
I can understand why people who are wrestling fans dislike that aspect completely, because it is quite insulting, I guess, if that's the stereotype that they're putting forward. However, if you can kind of get your head around that, and you're okay with just an hour and a half of just silly nonsense, and you're in the right frame of mind, I think you can really enjoy this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you can kind of like take the two main characters, take away the fact that they're adults and put them in the same mindset that you as a wrestling fan had when you were a child before you knew it was all scripted, because I think there's a line in the film where there's a bit of an argument about wrestling being fake. They believed it was real. These two characters, Gordy and Sean, believed that wrestling is real. If you put yourself in that mindset, I mean, you would have to obviously be more of a child. But wrestling was real to you as a kid. You would probably have a lot of the same feelings for your favorite wrestler that these do for Jimmy the King.
Jimmy King. Okay. A basic gist of the movie, the basic plot, if people are unaware. Jimmy King is the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. He has been undefeated, not champion, but undefeated for 14 years. I think they state at one point in the movie.
Yeah.
But he's a bit of a liability. He likes a beer. He's late for the shows, and so on. He's
a wrestler that believes his own bullshit. They try to paint him as the fan favorite, but really he's a bit of an arsehole. He thinks he's bigger than the wrestling world.
Yes, exactly. The promoter, Mr. Sinclair, has had enough of his nonsense.
Titus Sinclair.
Titus Sinclair. What a great wrestling name that is as well.
It is, isn't it? It's a really
Absolutely
good wrestling
superb. And Sinclair effectively decides, I've had enough of this guy's crap. And they effectively screw the guy like Bret Hart was screwed in Montreal.
Mhm.
They changed the end of a match. So Diamond Dallas Page, who I thought was brilliant in this movie all the way through, because he's just playing Diamond Dallas Page. Yes.
But even he's shit on bad, this Tata Sinclair. He's not made to feel like he's the next guy. He's taking over the mantle. He's just a body to replace the King. He calls him an idiot. He says anyone will be a better champion than King, even an idiot like you. So Dallas is just another pawn in this kind of this conveyor belt of wrestling to Tatsu, who hates wrestlers, absolutely detests wrestling fans, and thinks he invented wrestling. I think he says that I invented wrestling, or I gave you wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. And the show effectively, the film effectively, after we get a bit of sort of, I suppose, familiarizing ourselves with the main two characters and their job role as shit shovelers, I guess, Maxie. They drive a shit truck, don't they? Let's be honest.
You know that was only in there for the poo jokes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
There could have been any other job, but it was all about the poo jokes.
It was. They drive a massive truck that empties Portaloos, basically. So what a great
with a massive vacuum.
Yeah, exactly. But they adore Jimmy King. He is their hero, and they're going to Monday Nitro to see him defend his title, and they're amazed it's happening and on a Nitro. It's not even a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And King gets screwed, and Diamond Dallas Page walks out with the belt. But there's so many wrestlers straight away, isn't there?
Yeah, but before we even get to that, they feel that they've jinxed. The reason why they go on this mission to help Jimmy is because they feel that they've jinxed Jimmy because in their role as shit shovelers, Sean, one of the characters, needs to use the Portaloo, but he also knows what's going to happen when he uses that Portaloo, that his friend Gordy is gonna start sucking the shit out of the Portaloo and essentially suck the shit clean out of Sean's ass. So he tells Gordy not to do it. And
friends don't do it to friends, he says.
Friends don't do it to friends. And he says, if you do this, Jimmy King will lose on Nitro. So Gordy sucks the shit out of him. We get a pretty funny scene where Sean's been sucked down the toilet and toilet roll is going everywhere. But yeah, essentially that happens, and then Jimmy King does lose. So they feel it's their fault, and they have to repair the situation.
Yes, indeed. That opening match, then, I guess, we have the big gold belt as the WCW title there, or a variation of it. The coloring isn't exactly accurate, but it's a version of the big gold belt. And in that opening scene, we have guys who are sort of helping Page and Sinclair screw Jimmy King. And that's the likes of Bam Bam Bigelow. Van Hammer was there as well. I was like,
Prince
what the hell is that guy doing?
What the fuck was Prince Iakea doing in this film?
Oh, yeah, exactly. But then we have, is it the King's Court? They call his little stable of wrestlers. It looks like they're coming out to help as well. And Mr. Perfect was one of those.
Rey Mysterio was one.
Yeah.
And they kicked the shit out of him as well.
Yeah, everyone turns on the King. And he effectively then just disappears. He's told by Sinclair that he's never going to get a rematch. His career is over. That's it. Done and dusted. And that's kind of, in theory, the end of this guy's career, Maxie, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is. And he goes off the radar.
Yes. And our two heroes try and track him down. Now, this I enjoyed because it really did age the movie as well. And again, I come back to those sort of movies that were around this sort of time. You literally get a character from American Pie in it. Sherman. Or an actor from American Sherman, the Shermanator.
The Shermanator.
And he is using a very early version of the internet to try and help our two heroes track down where Jimmy King lives.
And within seconds,
they're
able to find not only where he lives, but his wife, their son, and the fact he's got an RV and the exact place where he's parked that RV. It's just MacGuffin after MacGuffin after MacGuffin in this film, just to move the plot along.
The bit that really got me was when he goes to the Sherman character gives them the address for Jimmy King's parents' house, and they go to, and the mum and dad answer the door, and there's something is said, and the one character goes,
brilliant.
the one character turns around to his parents. His parents say something, I can't remember exactly what it is, but he disagrees. Is it Sean? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Sean. Yeah.
Yeah, Sean
Yes.
disagrees.
No, because you died and he had to get a second job to pay your bills. And
He
the
said,
dad just goes, I should kick your ass, you little freak.
he goes, I've read the official Jimmy King autobiography, and in that it says you're dead.
I think he had the same ghostwriter as Hulk Hogan.
Oh yeah. Eventually, they catch up with Jimmy King, who is wearing a dress in a motorhome,
And a
surrounded
wig.
by empty bottles and a wig. Yes, because he's got various people after him. So he's disguising himself as a woman in this motorhome and is basically having a little pity party for one, I guess, Magsy.
He is, yeah, very drunk, doing something illegal with medication, because he confuses the two characters for delivering his meds.
Yes.
And then he stiffs them for $30 for a 5-minute meeting. Typical wrestler. He's an absolute, just a rinser of a human being. This is meant to be the hero of wrestling to the fans, and he's a fucking bell end. He's an absolute tosser.
He's just a dirtbag, isn't he? He's just
scum. He's just proper scum.
We get so many stereotypes in this film. We talk about the stereotype of, like, you know, how they portray wrestling fans and so on. Jimmy King, to me, ticks so many boxes for what so many wrestlers are actually like.
Yeah, this was based on so many different wrestlers, all wrapped up in a ball.
Yeah, the way he talks as well, Jimmy King. The longer the movie goes, the more he slips into what comes across like a really shit Dusty Rhodes impression.
Dusty Rhodes mixed
Maybe.
with a little bit of flair and maybe a little bit of Lawler, I think.
Yeah.
And then a bit of Gloucester thrown in there as well.
A bit of Gloucester.
And he's going, I will rule you.
Oh, man. They basically take Jimmy King, when he decides that he's going to take them up on their offer of getting a punch or one swing in on Sinclair. He's not interested in going back and winning the championship or anything like that, because he's saying wrestling is predetermined, it's fate, you kids are idiots and all this sort of shit. But if you can get me in a position where I get to punch Sinclair in the face for what he's done, I'm on board. So they sneak him into Nitro, Magsy, don't they?
And how do they sneak him in? With a porta cabin, a porta
Very
toilet.
clever, mate. Very clever, because it's using what they got access to.
Yeah, and it also gives Jimmy King a viable weapon to attack DDP, because he uses the toilet seat.
Yes,
when he's called a humpback whale.
Yes, DDP is cutting a promo backstage with Sinclair, and listen to me talking about this like it's a real fucking thing. It's
Wrestling's not fake.
Oh man, that's amazing. When David Arquette's character starts screaming that. Yes, they sneak him in. DDP is cutting a promo with his newly won world title. Eventually, King attacks him. It ends up in a brawl. Lots of people getting thrown about. But Jimmy King pins Diamond Dallas Page backstage and is declared the new world champion before Titus Sinclair says, no, that match was unsanctioned. It's like, well, of course it fucking was.
But they do manage to get the rematch out of Titus. And it's 4 weeks from now on pay-per-view. You don't even have to win the match. You just have to survive.
Yes.
But technically, that's bullshit, because he did have to win. There was specific parameters for winning the match that he had to achieve. So surviving would have not been enough. He had to win the fucking match. So that was a fucking lie. Straight
that
there.
was a load of
Typical
nonsense.
promoter.
Now, one of my favorite characters in this film is Sal Bandini, because King's a drunken mess. He's a fat waster, and he's never been in a real fight in his life by the looks of it. So he has to train. So they find him a trainer, Sal Bandini, and apparently this guy was written and based upon a combination of Lou Fez and Stu Hart, with the way he was training people.
Yeah, Stu Hart, I definitely get. I don't know a lot about Lou Thez, although I do know he trained and was an influence on a lot of wrestlers. But he so reminded me of Bob Backlund. It's unreal. That very old school kind of like catch can wrestling, but also as loopy as a fruit bat, just properly crazy.
Yeah, and he's like 105 years old or something stupid like that, isn't he? And when we first meet him, he's got this dingy little training facility, and he said, "I'm just finishing
up." Flat. It's not a it's literally just flat.
I'm just finishing out with the local college wrestling team, and the door spans open, and they're all like bandaged up,
ass packs on their head, and then when they're coming out, he's telling them you need to stretch more and you need to attack people's strengths, because attacking the weaknesses is they're expecting that you should go right down the middle, attack the strengths, which is bad advice, really.
Yeah, totally. We also get the character of Sasha, who is one of the Nitro girls, and again, it's one of those characters. I suppose same as Jimmy King's wife, who they encounter earlier on. Played by someone who really ages the date of this film, really sort of time.
I think Jimmy's wife was it one of the aunties out of Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
Yeah, spot on. It was one of the aunties out of Sabrina.
And I know Sasha was Rose McGowan.
From Charmed.
And she's the woman who started the whole Me Too hashtag with Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I just thought she was from Charmed.
I mean, she was from Charmed. That is a fact. But that's the woman who started the whole hashtag.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Fair enough. She is basically the object of David Arquette's character's desire. He thinks she is wonderful.
He's got a poster on the wall, and she goes through all these poses now.
Yeah.
Is it this one or is it this one? And no, it's the one where she's bent over a car with her ass out and looking back towards the camera. Oh yeah, he is infatuated with Sasha.
Yes. And Sinclair, the promoter, uses this to their advantage, sends Sasha in to basically spy on what's going on and act as Arquette.
Double agent,
act as Arquette's love interest, and she's feeding information back to Sinclair, and this leads to a scene I loved, because they find out that Jimmy King is being trained by Sal, so they send guys round to sort him out. And who are those guys, Mags?
They send two of the legitimate toughest guys in the company. They send Perry Saturn and they send Sid Vicious.
Yeah.
To sneak into his house, into his flat, and you see him creeping about, and they think that they've got this 100. I think he's 103 in the film. This 103-year-old man, and he beats the shit out of him.
Oh, it's so good. It's catchphrase, isn't it? Want to wrestle? And they just hook both their legs.
But they do eventually. The numbers catches up with him, and whilst he's giving Perry Saturn an ass whooping, Sid Vicious is able to overpower him, and they put the poor guy into hospital. And then we get a scene where Sid and Perry are in Sinclair's office, and Perry is absolutely beat to living smithereens, and Sid Vicious is holding a towel to his face, crying.
It's so good, isn't it? Because Sid still looks like an absolute killer, but he's just there weeping because this old guy's kicking the shit out of him. Oh, it's fantastic. In the hospital, however, this is where Arquette's character is. I keep forgetting the guy's. What's his character's name?
Gordy.
Gordy, that's it. Where Gordy finds out Sasha is working with Sinclair, and she has tipped off Sinclair as to who is training.
He overhears the phone call, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where she's telling Sinclair that she loves him and that she's going to be in the next head Nitro girl, and she wants out of this hick shithole.
Yeah.
Going back to that though, they say when Gordy and Sasha first meet, she says she's from Cordy, Wyoming, and he says, "Oh, I'm from Lusk," which is like just 2 minutes away. The reason why they use Cordy, Wyoming, is because that's where Eric Bischoff is from.
Yes, that's where he lives now as well. Yeah, that's where he lives now. Yeah. Yeah, apparently Bischoff was supposed to be involved in the film.
And he saw it and thought, "Fuck this!" So they got Joe Pantalonio to be the Eric Bischoff.
Yeah. Titus Sinclair. I was going to say Trevor Sinclair. Then that's not right. He used to play for QPR.
Trevor Sinclair. Geez.
That's a whole different movie if Trevor Sinclair was in it. Yeah, apparently Titus Sinclair that was written because Bischoff was fired by WCW before the movie.
Probably because he greenlit this movie.
Yeah, potentially. Oh dear. It's decided that the training needs to go back to basics, so they drive back out to Wyoming, which is all farmland and so on. And they
don't forget the scene where they were clearly advertising Butterfingers because it's mentioned multiple times.
Yes, indeed. They were very keen on their Butterfingers. They're trying to assemble a group for the King to have alongside him because they really tried to get people like Goldberg Goldberg's in the gym and they're approaching Goldberg to be like, can you be one of the King's men, can you sort of have his back? And Goldberg's like, I work alone and all this sort of stuff.
There's a whole scene there though, it's a really good scene where King is trying to say to Goldberg, look, we've had some really good times. And then he says, do you not remember when this happened in a match? And he went, yeah, you were my tag team partner.
And you puked on me.
And you puked on me. Yeah, Jesus. So they were basically, this is Goldberg saying he likes Jimmy King. He has a soft spot for him, but he works alone. He's having nothing to do with helping Jimmy King.
Exactly. So they assemble a ragtag group of just randomers from Wyoming, don't they?
Very much like another film, like Mystery Men. You'll have not watched it, but it's about superheroes with ridiculous superpowers. We get some characters from their trials. I think one that they do pick is Fred the Fireman. That's one. And his catchphrase, a lot of the catchphrases are pretty much the same as Jimmy King's with a one word change. So Jimmy King's catchphrase is, I will rule you. Fred the Fireman is, I will hose you, which is brilliant. And then we get, I think the girl's called Mary, who looks like an innocent little hillbilly / farmer girl.
Yeah.
And the Jimmy King and his two sidekicks don't think much of her until she rips off her dress and she's essentially a dominatrix underneath, which is fun.
Jimmy King comes out with a line, what's she gonna do? Boob them to death.
But the single down best character they have is the Chewer. Why is he called the Chewer? Because he chews tobacco with about 4 teeth in his mouth.
Yeah, I got Skinner vibes from that dude.
Yeah,
I weren't a fan
very
of him.
much so. No,
no, not good.
Skinner, and the Godwins.
Yeah, good shot. Yeah. Now we also hear when they're back in Wyoming get Gordy's dad arriving, who is a policeman. His whole family, his wife is a policeman. His daughter is shot her first perp, and they're
in
incredibly
the,
proud
in the
of her.
butthole.
In the butthole, yeah. And he is adamant that he's not going to waste his life on this silly wrestling thing.
Mhm.
And we get lines like, there's going to be no skimpy outfits, no touching other men. And this kind of brings me to a point I want to ask you about, Maxie, because we talk about wrestling being very much of its time when we look at older stuff and so on. And, you know, when we look at TV programs from other podcasts or whatever, certain situations, interviews and comments being of their time. This film doesn't feel old, even though it's 23 years of age. But there are certain things that get said that are a little bit off in present day.
Yeah.
They haven't aged well, maybe. So certain sexist comments and certain. I mean, I don't think there's anything that leans towards racism potentially, but there's maybe a bit of homophobia from some of the older characters.
Yeah, and that is probably still prevalent now. It's just it's now called out when it happens. But yeah, in this movie, they definitely do use stuff like that for comic effect. The good thing about that the police officer is he's in the film pretty early on when the guys are all hanging out outside the 7-Eleven, and
Yes.
you get this ridiculous scene where they're trying to con an extra Slurpee out of the shopkeeper by putting his finger up his arse and making it feel
That's
like
that's
the
fantastic.
Slurpee stinks of shit. But the copper comes and tries to bust Sean, who is Gordy's friend, and he grabs his balls and he says, the copper basically gives him the opportunity to be in would you not like to be on the other side of this? He goes, and Sean says, what, you mean me with my hands on your balls? So you do get some comic effect from that copper. And then there's another point where he finds out that his son is going to be wrestling, and he pins a picture on the fridge, and he empties his gun at the fridge and misses with pretty much every single shot. It's amazing.
And what I love about that as well is where he's shot the fridge door up and stuff is pouring out the fridge. It's all different colors from where he's hit a bottle of orange juice. So the orange is pouring out. There's milk pouring out of another one. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, it is.
Basically, Gordy is not going to the wrestling. He's not going to be there in King's Corner when he gets his.
He's
rematch.
been beat down by his dad. His dad
Yes,
said, "Look, this is not a future for you. You enter the family business of being a police officer."
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is shocking. Because Gordy is a fucking idiot. There's no two ways about it. He's a moron. He's an absolute moron. So the fact he's going to be a police officer is shocking.
Yes, indeed. I suppose this then takes us to the pay-per-view, doesn't it? We have it's at the MGM Grand, which is where Halloween
it claims,
Havoc,
but
the
shots of
outside is.
it, the shots of it are definitely the size of the ECW arena.
Yes, exactly. And basically, we have a triple cage, which if you go and check out Slamboree 2000,
cage on top of another cage on top of another cage.
If you go and check out Slamboree 2000 on the WWE Network, David Arquette ended up the WCW World Champion for real, and he defends the title in a triple cage inspired by this movie or took from the match for the movie or whatever. So that's quite interesting because you see this actual match type for real in WCW, which is brilliant and also just batshit crazy at the same time.
Yeah, and it's a sad indictment on the match type that the one in the film is way more entertaining than the one on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my word. Before the match starts, though, we get a cut to Mr. Sinclair again. And he needs to make sure Jimmy King doesn't win back the title and the $1 million he has been promised if he wins. So he's speaking to, I suppose, a secret weapon, Magsy. Who was he chatting to at the back there?
Well, firstly, doesn't he threaten Goldberg? There's a scene where I think he threatens Goldberg and Goldberg's just having none of it. But then, he's backstage and we see the Crow Sting.
Yeah,
He's
I love
threatening
this.
Sting.
if King wins, I will kill you. He tells.
Yeah,
No, I will
pretty
fucking
much, yeah.
kill you.
I
Is what he
will
says.
Kill you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sting is he's not the best actor, is he? Because pretty much 90% of his scenes is just stone faced. And I get that that's the Sting character, but Jesus Christ, ham it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of just stands there and, like you said, stone face, stares ahead and so on. But I got a kick out of that, seeing Sting painted up with the baseball bat and all that sort of great stuff. The entrances I enjoyed as well. Michael Buffer does the entrances, introduces Jimmy King and so on. And he's giving instructions to Sean, who is dressed all in a red suit as his manager. And he's saying,
Sugar Daddy Dawkins now.
Yes, which is funny.
Looks like
I
a
think
pimp.
Sugar, what's his name? The Hurricane. Sugar Shane Helms was his stunt double in the movie.
All right.
Which is quite cool.
He doesn't do much stunts.
No. And Chris Canyon did most of Oliver Platt's stunts, apparently, who was
you can definitely tell, because there's times where Jimmy King looks pretty slath, and then it cuts to him, and he's Oliver Platt, the actor, he's a bit of a chubby guy, and you can definitely tell it's not the same person doing the wrestling moves.
But he's running through with his manager certain instructions. You got to make sure that my stable support me when needed, keep an eye out in case they send interference down. And then he says something else as the music hits that Sean doesn't quite hear. So he comes running out after
the pyro.
What was that you said? And the instruction was, watch out for the pyro. So he runs into the pyro going off and it sets his suit on fire. Oh dear.
Idiots.
The match is, this is where it gets really silly and over the top and Hollywood, but it's still funny. If you sort of don't expect too much, you can still really find funny moments in this. I mean, there were so many wrestlers involved again, because everyone gets in the ring and from both sides, and we end up with, the King finding out he has got some friends, Magsy.
Well, yeah, he had Fred the Fireman. And
no, not bad.
The Chewer.
Not
no, really. His real Kingsmen come out. He's got Goldberg, Booker T. I think he's one of them. And I think you froze. Did you freeze then?
Am I back?
You are. Yeah. So
okay.
I was saying he had
wobbling a little bit. So.
He had Goldberg, as obviously because he'd been mentioned in the film. Booker T was one of his King's men. Who was
Kidman?
the other ones? Kidman, yes.
Kidman
was there.
Kidman was there. Yeah. In his wife beater t-shirt and so on. Yeah, so the ring is full of people battling away. Paige,
everybody who was anybody in WCW was in this scene of the film because they all needed to get a payday.
Apart from Lex Luger.
Well, and I mean, we did get Savage with his own scene as well, where he wrestled.
True. Yes,
wrestled in the supermarket.
Oh man! Disco Inferno as well was with. Which is
Disco.
Random. Disco Inferno.
So that was another thing I actually picked up on. So when the King's men come down to the ring, obviously Goldberg is a big focus and he attacks a couple of people. But pretty much all of them start beating down on the baddies, apart from Disco Inferno, who gets the shit kicked out of him, which I thought was brilliant.
Oh, brilliant. We get King and DDP climbing the cage, getting right to the top, and it's it's basically a ladder match, isn't it? You got to grab the belt from the top of this massive cage, and it looks like DDP has this secured. And here comes Sting, swooping down like the superhero he is, with his Sting music playing as this happens, or a variation of it. Knocks DDP flying. And honestly, eat your heart out, Mick Foley. What a bump Paige took.
He did. Right the way. It takes more than one bump, because that kicks him down to cage 1, I think. And that Sting comes with the classic line, Jimmy King is all right with me.
Yeah.
Brilliant acting. Brilliant acting.
Page ends up getting body slammed by King and goes through every layer of. I mean, that
Yeah,
was one hell of a
just murder.
slap, wasn't it? Yeah,
And
just kills.
and if you watch if you see when he goes through each of the layers of the cages, he's not taking that bump particularly well. He goes through it net first, which is never a good thing. But luckily, with the magic of editing, he lands flat back and he doesn't die from going through 30 legitimate feet of cage.
There we go. And that's kind of the end of the event. Jimmy King is world champion. Gordy's arrived again, hasn't he? Sorry, he's turned up in his police uniform, and that is his new wrestling gimmick. Apparently,
he turned up on a bike because the King's men couldn't get in the ring because they locked it with a chain, and he turns up on a bike, a police bike, drives it all the way through the cage, and that brings his dad, who he's watching at the police station with the rest of his family. That brings his dad around because he's seeing that his son is showing that he's a police officer and he's looking mean with all these wrestlers around him. So his dad is now fully on board with Gordy, aka the Law, whose catchphrase is "I will bust you," not "I will crown you" or "I will rule you." I will bust you. He's proud of his son now being a wrestler.
Yeah. And that takes us back to, I suppose, a repeat of the very opening scene of the movie where they're outside the shop, the off-license, whatever, and the shopkeeper has been particularly mean to some kids.
Mm-hmm.
And Berg's there in full gear, in his trunks, beating the piss out of the shopkeeper before getting in a car. I like the idea that these guys just go around in full gimmick all of the time.
Yeah. And the car that they get in is awesome because it's essentially like a Hummer style, but it's got a hot tub on the back. And who's in the hot tub? Only the goddamn actual hero of this film, Sal Baldini, with two Nitro girls, living his best life.
Magsy, in summary then, Ready to Rumble, the movie from 2000. What are your thoughts?
If you are watching this and it's in the chat that Cam has not seen this and he's going to download it to watch tomorrow, firstly, check your brain at the door, because if you're looking for a film that will inspire you mentally, this ain't it. This is not it. But if you've got a slight passing interest in wrestling, it's a fun film. Ignore the ratings that it's got because it's not got good ratings whatsoever. If you just check your brain at the door, this is a great film. It really is. It's just fun. It's just a fun film.
It is indeed. It is indeed. It is fun seeing the wrestlers in the movie. And we didn't even mention John Cena, Mags, did we?
No. So in the Goldberg scene where the guys are trying to get Goldberg to come onto Jimmy's team, you see Cena in the background put on the butterfly weights machine with bright blonde hair. You see him there. I think he's in you see him for a couple of seconds, but he's literally staring at the camera in the background. Such a bad acting. But yeah, John Cena's in there.
He's just an extra, isn't he? He's got nothing to do with anything.
No,
you know,
he's literally just there as just a
gym guy. Yeah. And it was his media debut. Apparently, is the term they use because he'd never been on screen.
Well, he definitely didn't know that you shouldn't stare directly at the camera.
Keep your eyes on the hard cam. Keep your eyes on the hard cam, pal. It is fun. It's silly nonsense, and
it is.
I came away from it having laughed a lot. It was fun. Again, it's not going to be mentally challenging for you. So go into this in the right frame of mind. If you're grumpy and you put it on, you're going to think it's nonsense. Go into it in a decent frame of mind. You're going to enjoy it. I think it's funny. It's silly. It's daft. I mean, if you watch pro wrestling, you enjoy things that are silly and daft anyway. So why wouldn't you enjoy this? Pretty much. At the end, the good guys win. And that's what I want, Mags.
Yeah, exactly. All is well in the end. We
There
get a
we go.
redemption arc for Jimmy King. He's realised the error of his ways. He's made up with his son and his wife. All is good in the end.
There we go. Do we rate this?
Yeah, I rate it. I'm definitely going to rate it. Whilst it's not a match in the traditional sense, there is wrestling in there, although very, very over the top and scripted. That the 4-post massacre, that's a sight to behold, especially when you get the underhead cam where you see Van Hammer and Prince Iakea, and I think it's Perry Saturn and Bam Bam Bigelow, all mid-flat. That's a sight to behold. So yeah, I mean the main match is ridiculous, but it's fun. So it's not going to win any awards for technical wrestling, but for me, this was enjoyable. And I've watched actual wrestling matches I hated way, way more than this. So I'm going to give this a 7.
Okay. In my head, I had 6 because I look at another WCW match, Booker T, Scott Steiner, as my benchmark.
That's your
5.
benchmark, and it's better than that.
I had a lot more fun watching this than I did that. So I'm thinking 6.5 for myself, Magsy. Yeah. But again, it's enjoyable. There's enough there to make you laugh and so on. So shall we get on to what we're going to potentially look at next week, my friend? What are you linking to from this movie?
So the obvious links would be to use the plethora of WCW wrestlers in this film. There's so many ways you could go. But no, I'm not going to take the easy way out. So Gordy, the main character, David Arquette's character, he achieves his dream of being a wrestler. And his wrestling gimmick is the law. He's a police officer. Now we've seen that gimmick somewhere before.
Interesting.
From a little town called Cobb County, Georgia. So I'm going to go with the link of police officers, and I'm going to go with the Big Boss Man.
Okay.
Now, a lot of Big Boss Man's early run matches weren't particularly long, so there's not a lot of meat on the bone. But the Big Boss Man is included in one of probably the most important things that's ever happened in wrestling, and that's the streak. He was the Undertaker's opponent at WrestleMania 15 in a Hell in a Cell match. A Hell in a Cell match where he was hung from the cell. So I'm taking that as the link for this week. We are going to WrestleMania 15 from Philadelphia and Bossman versus Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match.
Very memorable encounter for various
for all the wrong reasons.
That's gonna, if that wins, that's gonna be some fun talking about that. That's gonna be fun. My link is also a WrestleMania match, Magsy. So stop me if we've covered it before. I'm fairly certain we haven't. In fact, I know we haven't. I'm going to use one of the wrestlers we've seen in the movie, and it's the aforementioned Randy Savage from the opening fight scene in the shop.
Yeah,
brilliant moment in that when he gets body slammed in the shop and the shake of the ring makes all the tins and cans fall off the shelves. That's superb. But anyway, and I think Randy Savage is one of the best to ever do it. Very long career, brilliant title matches, brilliant as a babyface, brilliant as a heel, numerous world titles in WCW, a couple of world titles in the WWF, and I would like to go back and watch him basically win his first at WrestleMania 4. Now, this was a one-night tournament.
It was
a huge event. Hogan, Andre, all these big names, all the names you can imagine at that time in the WWF vying for the vacant WWF World title. Savage wrestled 3 times on that particular show. I'd like to look at the final as the main match, but I also think we'll probably dip our toes into the other matches a little bit when we talk about the card and so on. So the main event of WrestleMania 4 ended up being Randy Savage versus the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase for the vacant WWF World title. And Savage also wrestled Butch Reed and the One Man Gang earlier in the event. So that's what I would like to put forward.
Great pick.
Okay.
I do like mine better, but there
Fair
we
enough.
go.
So those are your options for next week's poll. Two very different WrestleMania matches from two very different wrestling eras, I think.
And no babysitting dogs in sight.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. WrestleMania 15, the Big Boss Man versus The Undertaker, Hell in a Cell, or Randy Savage winning the WWF World title against Ted DiBiase, and a couple of other matches may be looked at the same time at WrestleMania 4. So keep your eyes out on our social medias at @chain_wrestling to vote in the poll, retweet, and all that great stuff. Magsy, before we depart, shall we scan through the chat quickly, my friend?
Yes, let's have a quick look. There's a lot of grief about Dan and Sid not being allowed scissors. Apparently, Dan is not to be trusted because of the multiple times the scissors I was carrying found their way into people. That really kind of sparked Scottish Danny's a fascination with with stabbing. Scotty Danny then says, I wish we got a Jimmy King appearance at some point, even as a guest host of Raw. Wouldn't it have been amazing if we had Jimmy King as the King Jerry Lawler's replacement for announcer, for commentator?
Wearing the dress and the wig and swinging a bottle.
And charging $30 for a 5-minute chat. That's ridiculous. Cam says he's never seen this. So, and I don't recommend this. They start DMing each other spurious links to this movie. Now, that brings me on to something else for this. I haven't actually got a copy of this. I'm assuming you've got a copy of it on VHS.
No.
It's not on Netflix or on Amazon Prime or Google Play. Yeah, you have to pay for it everywhere you go.
Yeah, £3.49. £3.49.
Did you pay?
I did, mate. I paid. I'm professional.
I definitely didn't pay, and I definitely didn't torrent it. I promise.
So you're stealing somebody's creation there. And you literally on this exact show, you're talking about guilt for thieving, and you're stealing movies.
That's a victimless crime.
Is it really? Yeah.
The only victim in this was me, because I had to watch David Arquette talking about poo for half of the film. So King's Pigs Banner said, is it all stationary that Dan's not allowed, or just the sharp ones? You don't want to know the horrors I can inflict with a hole punch. Ear piercing as a sideline. I'm getting some love for my shout of Mystery Men. Absolute shout. It's a great film. If you ever watch something that is recommended to you on ASR, go and watch Mystery Men. It's a great film.
I'll add it to the list
of films that you will never ever watch. So yeah, the illegal copies of the film got shared around. Just disgusting.
We do not condone that.
Dan Griffin says, if one of you doesn't pick No Holds Barred, and we didn't, so thank God for that.
Do you know what? I don't think I've seen No Holds Barred.
You've never seen the film? I think I've seen it one time.
I don't think I have.
Well, it's too late to nominate. You're not changing your answer. We're not watching another bloody wrestling movie.
No. I'm happy with what I put forward, but yeah, maybe that's an option for another time.
So Dan says he loves the Taker versus Bossman match, and then switches like the flip-flop he is to how about a 50-50?
No more 50-50s.
Calls me a pirate. He would absolutely steal a movie. You wouldn't download a car. And then Cam says, pot kettle, Mr. Mags, outrageous. Yeah, but this is a victimless crime, so I'm allowed.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in the chat, messaging on Twitter, voting in the polls, all that great stuff. It's fantastic that everyone joins us. My wife in the chat there, what does she say, Magsy?
She said she just deleted a rant about illegal downloads. I'll save that one for Powell Palace. That will be a rant worth listening to. I agree with you. These guys just amaze me every week that they keep coming back and listening to our absolute tosh and just adding so much to the show. Like we say every week, you guys make this show. Your input is absolutely amazing. We love the fact that you're back here every week, going on this ridiculous journey with us. We can't thank you enough for it.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. Magsy, whereabouts can people find you?
There, and look out in your DMs, people. I'll be looking for some outsourcing questions for next week's Mags versus Sa, where we will then also debut the new intro music / graphic.
Yeah,
I want to say
it's brilliant.
It's the best work I have ever done.
Honestly, I cried with laughter when Magsy played me that just before we went live. It was superb. So that's something to look forward to next week. You can find anything I'm involved in via the network that carries this show. So that's at SJP World Media on Facebook and Twitter. And coming up just this week, we've got the Doctor Who pod looking at a William Hartnell episode. We've got Nitro Nights, a bonus episode of Nitro Nights actually as well. 2 episodes dropping on Thursday. We look at, Scottish Danny and I look at Bash at the Beach 96. We're finally reached the night of Hogan's turn. And to go along with that, we have our special NWO bonus episode, the formation of the NWO. We go our best part of 2.5 hours talking about all sorts, and I'm so proud of it. Listening back, editing it, I'm really proud of that episode. So make sure you check that out and share it as well. It's just so much. Murder in Mind podcast restarting Friday. Waiting Room episodes being recorded again. So much going on. So much. Just check it all out at SJP World Media. And you can follow this show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that TikTok thingamy at @chain_wrestling. That's at @chain_wrestling. Sharon in the chat there saying, am I not the games master? Magsy, we did mention about getting Sharon on to ask the questions at one point, didn't we?
We did. I mean, you've got to remember, Sharon, that Sa forgot about it till the day of and only remembered to have 3 questions. So this will be a section that evolves gradually. So I would love for Sharon to be the games master, but we've got to get there.
We will see how things shape up in the coming week. I'm looking forward.
That's what the course it was for.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Yes, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, chuck us a great big fat 5-star review on all your podcast platforms because we deserve it, because we are fucking awesome. Magsy, I'm off now to start one of those online GoFundMe jobs because I reckon with a few quid we can get Ready to Rumble 2 made. I'll see you next week, my friend.
Don't ever do that.